The AFC West, awesome division. Do we have awesome sleepers and breakouts and some busts? We sure do. We'll tell you right now on FFT Express. All right, here we go. AFC West sleepers. Dave Richard, what do we got?
Well, first, I want to talk about the defenses real quick. I love the Broncos defense a lot this year. I think they're going to be very good. They're my number one DST. Their schedule is actually great to start the year. They play Cleveland. No, they don't play Cleveland in week one. I looked in the wrong place. They play Tennessee in week one. Even better, they've got Cam Ward's NFL debut at home in week one. An amazing matchup, an amazing defense, great secondary, great pass rush, head and shoulders above everybody else in the AFC West. Kansas City's behind them. Chargers closer to Kansas City, and then the Raiders defense not very good. So some mixed bag when it comes to the matchups in the AFC West. The sleepers that I like, let's start with J.K. Dobbins in Denver. Getting there late in the offseason, I think he's their passing downs guy. I think he's going to replace Javonte Williams in that role. R.J. Harvey's got a long way to go to earn it. And I think Dobbins could eat into the rushing downs work with Harvey as well. Curious to see how that works out, but J.K. Dobbins is somebody that I'm looking for on draft day with a value pick. Evan Ingram, also somebody that I'm looking at as a sleeper in Denver, could be the number 2 target getter behind Cortland Sutton there, and could finish as a top 10 fantasy tight end, especially in PPR. And one quarterback that's a sleeper, Justin Herbert, finished so strong last year. And I know that the Chargers added so much to their offense, and they're going to want to run the ball. There's going to be games where you're going to see Justin Herbert throw. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him run a little bit. I started the offseason with him ranked as a top 12 quarterback. He's fallen from there, but he's somebody that I wouldn't mind stashing with my last pick.
Dave, looking at NFC average draft position where I can set a date range from July 1st through the 8th, R.J. Harvey is RB23 and J.K. Dobbins is RB38. And that is about 50 picks after Harvey.
Yeah, I love the value in Dobbins more than Harvey. I've said this before on the main show, Adam. When we were like ramping up for the draft, we never talked about R.J. Harvey. And that's not to say that he's a bad player. It's just that he never really got our attention. Now, he got Sean Payton's attention. That obviously means a lot more than him getting our attention. And opportunity means more than anything else when it comes to fantasy football. But the fact that they went through a couple of OTAs and then they decided to sign J.K. Dobbins, obviously that tells me that they needed something for that running back room that they didn't have on the roster already. And I think that ends up being a factor this year.
All right. So how about some breakouts in the AFC West?
I think there's really only 2 that I could buy into, and they're both rookie running backs. So the most obvious breakout candidate is Ashton Genty. Comes into the NFL after a great college career, just a unique talent because he's so stout, strong, shakes off tackles. He's going to be an awesome running back, and the Raiders are going to run the ball a ton this year. It's Pete Carroll's way. It's Chip Kelly's way. They got the best running back in the draft. I think he'll be great, and I think that Aizer Hampton can be a breakout running back as well. I think it'll take a little while because Najee Harris has been solid veteran for a long time, doesn't really get hurt. It's going to take the Chargers coaching staff realizing that Aizer Hampton's the better player before they give Hampton the lion's share of the rushing workload. That could potentially happen in September if Hampton outplays Najee in training camp. But I would guess that's something that's going to happen like mid-October, somewhere in that range. And I think people are going to draft Hampton as if he is the main guy to start the year. They might be disappointed in September, but by the time we get to Halloween, they'll be really happy with having Aizer Hampton on their fantasy team.
All right. Hampton's going as RB16, Najee as RB36 over the last week.
This is not like the Denver situation. I don't look at Najee as the better value here at all. Najee's more of the type of running back that I want if I'm going 0 RB, and I just need a running back that's going to get me off to a decent start to begin the year. I think Harris could do that. I don't think he can be a league winner or anything close to that.
Anyone else you want to mention as a breakout?
You can make the case for Xavier Worthy after what he did toward the end of last year and what he brings to that Chiefs offense. I'm just not sure that he's going to run away, pun intended, with being the best receiver in Kansas City. You can make the case for Bo Nix to have a better year than he had last year. You talked about it on our show on Tuesday, that Bo Nix got off to a terrible start and then really turned it around. His per game pace was outstanding. in the second half of the year, if he can build on that, given the additions to this offense in Denver, then yeah, he could absolutely be a breakout candidate.
And Bo Nix's rushing totals really, really help him as well. All right, let's take a break on fantasy football today, and let's talk about some busts in the AFC West when we come back.
What's he like? The happy-faced killer?
You mean my dad? Be glad you never have to know.
You think that you're so much better than me.
You're just like your old man.
I am not like you at all.
And we're back here on FFT Express. All right, busts in the AFC West.
You can make the case. I'm just making the case for two primo tight ends in this division, and you already know who they are. It's going to be Travis Kelce, and it's going to be Brock Bowers. Bowers, more so based on ADP. His ADP is like in the top 20. I think the Raiders offense is going to change dramatically from what we saw last year. Better quarterback, no question about it, but they couldn't run the ball worth a lick. Now they're going to be able to with Genti in that backfield. And I think we're going to see the Raiders come down in pass attempts, come down in pass rate. They added 2 receivers in the draft. They've got more options for the passing game. Bowers can still lead the way. Bowers can still be a top 3 fantasy tight end, maybe even top 2, maybe even the top 1. But I don't think he's worthy of being a top 20 pick because I don't know if he'll be able to fully replicate the 8.7 targets per game he had last year or the 15 PPR points per game that he had as a rookie last year. And with Kelce, you saw it at the beginning of 2024. Rashee Rice was dominating those inside targets. We're looking at targets inside the numbers. He was crushing it there. He's obviously faster than Travis Kelce at this point. Better yak candidate. Kelce, if he doesn't get touchdowns, you can see what happens to his fantasy production. Could be disappointing, but we're drafting him at a later price point than we were at any point in like the last 7 years. So I guess that's already baked into his ADP.
I think Kelce could be horrible. I mean, he showed so much signs of slowing down last year. He's not making guys miss. His yak was just dreadful. And he was getting about 3 or 4 targets per game in 3 games with Rashee Rice. And that was without Marquise Brown at that point. And that was with Xavier Worthy barely being a factor. He lost his, end zone role. In fact, Noah Gray was getting as much, attention in the end zone as Kelce for at least for a stretch. So I can't say I'm completely out on him because, like you said, he is going later. But I think there's a possibility he's at 110 targets or something like that, doing not much with them.
I mean, you could also make the case that he could bounce back just by virtue of 110 targets and 6 or 7 touchdowns. He could have positive touchdown regression.
He could. Yeah.
I mean, and he could easily do it because what were defenses doing at the beginning of last season on obvious passing downs? They were taking Kelce away. And if teams go into this year saying, all right, we've got a plan for Rice, we got a plan for Worthy, they might not be able to dedicate the resources that they used to Kelce. And Kelce can still win in contested catch situations. I like that he lost weight. So maybe he's a little bit quicker than he was last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if you're drafting him as the 5th or 6th tight end off the board, it's not the worst thing in the world.
I'm trying to lose a little weight, Dave.
Me too.
Tough.
Yeah, it's
tough, Right.
And just to go back to Bowers, obviously I'm not taking him as a top 20 pick in my draft, but if I'm at the beginning of round 2, he's absolutely going to be on my radar. I like McBride better, but you don't want to draft anybody too close to their ceiling. And I just think
that it's weird to say that's his ceiling when he scored how many touchdowns last year? 4,
5, 6. Bowers we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be the argument. He scored 5 touchdowns on 153 targets. I don't know why this is his ceiling. He did that as a rookie, basically the greatest rookie season we've ever seen from a tight end. He came into the league with this kind of pedigree. I don't really think he has much competition to be worried about. I mean, he's by far the most talented player in that receiving core. I do not care about Jack Bash.
Definitely.
Not that I don't care about him, but I don't think that's going to hurt.
No, you can't say watch out for Jack Bash and that's going to ruin Bowers. It's Genti. It's Genti that really strikes me as a problem for Bowers, because not only does that take Bowers out of the routine targets in goal to go situations because they can just run it with Genty and he'll score from a yard out to 10 yards out.
Right.
But Genty is also a really good pass catcher out of the backfield. And remember the type of coverage that we just got done talking about with Kelsey? What do you think is going to happen with Bowers this coming year?
I guess I just don't really buy that argument because then we could never draft great players because every year, what do you think is going to happen?
Great players can overcome the double. It's harder to do it when you're in your second season.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they were double teaming him last year. Who were they focusing on last year? Jacoby Myers, Harris. You know, it's
a fair point.
Imagine he wasn't double teamed last year.
It's a fair point.
Yeah. All right. Well, of course, it's just a guess from me. I can't say that with certainty, but I can say with certainty this is the end of the show, and we will talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today Express. See you later.